Hi, my name is Tracy Cornelius and I'd like to welcome you to Homemade, Grown and Sewn. Today we're going to be making a bag from a pattern from a magazine. So let's get started. So the other day I went into a shop which was called the Poppy Patch, which is in Earls Barton in Northamptonshire, and I met the most amazing lady, and her name is Carol Johnson, and she's the lady that runs the shop along with her business partner Leslie. Now, she was phenomenal, she was extremely helpful, and while we were talking about my kind of sewing journey, she had suggested that there were a couple of magazines that she thought would be perfect for my particular style. And they are these ones. They are from Australia, Country Threads, and it has a number of different patchworking projects in there. So in particular, I thought for the first one, I would actually like to make a bag. So it's on page, it's actually in this one, to help if I got the right magazine. So on page 20, so just finding the right page. So it's this particular project here. So with the lady's help, I went through all the different materials that we'd actually need and bought them. Now this particular bag is made from material from a jelly roll. Now this is a jelly roll, and basically it means that it has, I think, about approximately 40 strips of fabric which are 2.5 inches wide. Now you can buy jelly rolls in a number of different colourways, but what it does mean is that it will have kind of corresponding fabric, so that it will either all kind of have very, very similar colourways, or you can get ones that are contrasting, which means that it will have colours in it that are almost opposite to each other in the colour wheel. So really kind of good way. There are a number of different types of fabric in here, as in different patterns and things like that, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Then we've got some calico, and this I'm going to be using to line the bag, and I'm also going to be using it for the pocket in the front. And then we've also got some pellon. Now this has a kind of rough side and then it has a smooth side, and I think we're going to iron it into place. I'm going to find that out when I read the instructions carefully, but this is going to be used for padding out the bag. Now when I've come to do the cutting and cutting out the different applique parts, I've actually come across a little problem, because it's in the applique section it tells you to use some fusible webbing, but obviously in the materials it didn't say that you needed fusible webbing, so I don't actually have any. And because it says fusible webbing and it uses the word pellon later on, I don't actually think they're the same thing. So my gut instinct would be that you're going to use the fusible webbing to help you to cut out the little applique parts on the from the material, but also to make sure that it's not going to fray, because you've not got any seam allowance or anything. So I've come up with a solution. I'm presuming that fusible webbing is pretty much the same as Wonder Web, and we have a lot of that in our house, as I didn't do sewing before, so everything was taken up or adjusted with good old Wonder Web. So I'm just going to show you what I've done to hopefully rectify the problem. Okay, so I have my little swatch of fabric here that I would like to use for my little applique bird, and I've also got the little section that I've used with tracing paper and traced it out and then cut round it. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've put some strips of Wonder Web on some tracing paper, and I've got my little travel iron here which is on about a medium setting. So what I'm going to try and do is carefully fold over the tracing paper so that I haven't got any kind of edges. I'm going to fold that over, and I'm just going to iron over, and that should fuse all the Wonder Web little sections together, and then I can peel it apart. I think you need to be fairly quick. This is not like the best solution, but it was one that I thought, well, maybe this will work. Now I can put on the piece of material. I'm just going to quickly iron that to flatten it out a bit more anyway. The craft mat that I'm using here is actually heat resistant, so you can iron on it. and that's not really a problem. If it does get really hot, it does tend to raise a little bit, but then it goes completely flat afterwards, so it's perfect for this. Okay, so I'm now going to put the heated Wonderweb section on, well, I'm going to put the material, sorry, the wrong side down on top of the Wonderweb section. And again, I'm going to flip that over, making sure that every single time I'm not ironing the actual Wonderweb onto the iron. And I'm going to put the tracing paper over because there's a little excess around the side, so I don't want that to be stuck onto my crafting mat. Again, I'm just going to iron over the top. And now I can use my craft scissors. I'm going to cut around this roughly, just to remove the tracing paper. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the design of the applique onto the back of the tracing paper. So I'm making sure that I do it the wrong way round. And my pencil. So like I said, I've got it the wrong way round, so that when I cut it, it's going to be the right way round. And I'm just going to trace around this. I'm really not going to worry if it's too rough, because obviously I'm going to be cutting this out and not seeing it. And not too bad when it comes to cutting out anyway. So, transferred the design onto the back there, and now I'm actually going to use my paper crafting scissors because I've got the tracing paper on the top, so I don't want to ruin my material scissors. But these paper crafting scissors are really sharp, and they cut really well anyway. So I'm just, as you can see, I tend to move the paper and the material around instead of moving the scissors around. It just gets me a much cleaner cut. So now that I've cut that one out, now I was a bit concerned when I tried this, because I have done it with this one here, that when you try to peel off the paper, that I thought, well, the material could fray. So I'm just going to use some fray check, which just basically means that it almost kind of glues the edges, so then the material doesn't fray. So again, just going to go around the edges. And this was really good because it actually made it much easier to get the tracing paper off the back as well, because tracing paper obviously tends to wrinkle and stuff when you've got it wet, or add any moisture to it. So just want to be careful I don't burn myself anyway. So just using this fray check going all the way around the edge. You also want to make sure that you're not squeezing the bottle too much, because you don't want to have a really thick line. Okay, so now that I've done that, you can see that the paper is starting to come away from the fabric anyway. So I'm just going to peel it back. It's advisable to wait for the fray check to dry a little bit. Grab a corner, and you can just then start to peel the tracing paper off. And then what I found is that most of that Wonderweb stays on the back of the material. So now I know that it's not going to fray, and we can also iron that on and then stitch around it. So that's my little solution. Hopefully that's okay. If anybody has any better ideas and what have you, then please leave me a comment anyway.